This is a News 12 Long Island Vote 2016 election debate.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Island Vote 2016 election special. I'm Stone Grissom. For the next half hour, we'll be talking with the two candidates running for the 1st Congressional District. That district covers the east end of Long Island, including the townships of Southampton, East Hampton, Riverhead, Southold, Brookhaven, portions of Smithtown, Shelter Island, and Fishers Island. Now let's meet the candidates. The challenger, Anna Throne-Holst of Southampton, is running on the Democratic Working Families and Women's Equality lines. Ms. Throne-Holst is the former Southampton Town Supervisor. She was also a founder and executive director of nonprofit child care and social service agencies. And the incumbent, Lee Zeldin from Shirley, is running on the Republican, Conservative, Independence, and Reform tickets. The congressman is in his first term in Washington. He was a New York State Senator from 2011 to 2014. He served in Iraq and is currently a major in the Army Reserves. Candidates, I want to welcome you both to News 12 Long Island. Now, before we begin the rules and the format of this debate, this is what they are. Each candidate will have 1 minute for an opening statement. Each will then have up to 1.5 minutes to answer each question, then 30 seconds for a rebuttal if needed. Now, at the end of the debate, both candidates will have 1 minute for closing statements. We'll start now with opening statements. Speaking order was decided by lot prior to the debate. We begin with Congressman Zeldin.
Loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, personal courage. These are the 7 Army values that drive me all day, every day. I was born and raised on Long Island, and now my wife Diane and I are raising our beautiful twin daughters here. I served in the Army for 4 years on active duty, spent the last 9 in the reserves, where I currently serve with the rank of major. After 4 years in the state Senate, I was elected to Congress in 2014, where I will work with anyone to move our country forward. That is why my record is filled with bipartisan accomplishments. My top priorities? To protect America's security and to strengthen our middle class. My opponent's slash and burn campaign of negativity is not how we will be able to achieve progress and unity. That's not what I want. That's not what our country needs. And is not what you or your family deserve.
All right, thank you, Congressman. Now we'll move to the opening statement from Supervisor Anna Throne-Holst.
Thank you. Washington is broken, and a vast majority of Americans are fed up with what is, by all accounts, the most ineffective, mired in dysfunction Congress in the history of Congress. I have devoted my career and my work to bringing opportunity, closing the gap on income inequality, and economic development to the people who need it most in this community while raising my 4 children. In the private sector, I built and managed income inequality programs, education, essential services. In the public sector, I fought for fiscal management. I made sure that tax dollars were protected, economic development, and jobs, while bringing people together across party lines to get the job done, find common sense solutions, and work together. I will build on that experience, my know-how, and my devotion to working for community and getting the job done to Congress.
All right, thank you to both of the candidates. Let's begin with the questions now. I would be remiss if I did not begin this debate with this question. At the final presidential debate, the head of the GOP, the presidential candidate Donald Trump, refused to say that he would accept the outcome of the election. I'm going to pose this to both of you. I'll begin with Congressman Lee Zeldin on the GOP ticket. Will you, on November 8th, accept the outcome of the election, both on the presidential side and in your own race?
Well, it's a great question. I always have, and I always will. I mean, we have a great democracy. Right now, we have men and women overseas risking life and limb in defense of our freedoms and liberties to give us the right to vote. And that's why it's so important that everyone does go out and vote. We also have to protect the integrity of the process, not just in the past, but currently and in the future, to ensure that everyone votes once, every vote is counted, and that we are electing the people who the voters choose all throughout America. But this is maybe the most important day of the entire year. For us this year, it's Tuesday, November 8th. I ask for everyone's support this November. I ask you to look at my record, not just during my time in the New York State Senate, where I was able to get a lot of goals, victories over the finish line, working with colleagues on both sides of the aisle. But also during my 21 months in Congress, people have said to me, Lee, you've accomplished more in your 21 months than your predecessor did in 12 years before you. I'm prepared to do everything in my power between now and November 8th to continue to earn your support. But what's more important is that November 9th, that all across America, whoever is elected, that we all come together, that we have a healthier dialogue on solutions. Because as we move towards January of 2017 with the challenges facing our country to secure us, to grow our middle class, that's what's most important. And I can't wait to continue fighting for you and fighting for our district.
All right, I appreciate that. So just to be clear, you will accept the results of the election?
Always have, always will.
Okay. And Supervisor, I'll give you a minute and a half if you need it.
I have been elected 6 times, and every time I have accepted the results of the election. It's absolutely a fundamental part of the American way. I found it shocking last night with one of the presidential contenders saying that he may not. That's about as un-American as it gets. And I, too, have felt that the election process is one that is sacred in this country. And I encourage everyone to come out and vote in what is probably the most important election of our lifetime. The choices are clear, both on the presidential level, but right here in the Congressional District as well. You have the choice between someone who has fought for the middle class, who will protect middle class taxes, who will make sure that we don't continue the giveaways to the top 1% and large corporations, who will protect Medicare and Social Security and make sure it stays solvent, but not on the back of middle class and working families, who will make sure that a woman's right to vote is protected, and that we will in fact fix the Affordable Care Act, that we will bring common sense gun safety solutions, and that I will continue to work as I have, not only talk about doing it, but actually doing it, working together across party lines to get the job done.
Okay, sounds like you have a real quickly, if you can.
Well, listen, I mean, it's not just, it's about protecting everyone's right to vote. It's about protecting women's right to vote. It's about protecting men's right to vote, seniors' right to vote. And as far as the middle class, when we successfully led the effort to repeal the MTA payroll tax for 80% of employers, co-sponsored the nation's strongest property tax cap, reduced middle-income tax rates to the lowest level in 60 years, or in Congress, where last December we made 20 tax relief provisions for Long Island families and businesses permanent. We need to grow the middle class, and that is something that I've been fighting for every single day I've been in office. Okay,
let's get to some of the topics that impact Long Islanders. Let's jump right into energy policy right now. We pay on Long Island some of the highest energy bills in the nation. On the federal level, we'll begin with you, Anna Throne-Holst. What would you do specifically on the federal level? Do you support alternative sources of energy? We have a lot of local proposals, the Montauk windmill farm, the solar panel farm. What do you support, and what is the role of the federal government in alternative energies that might impact Long Islanders?
I think the federal government has a front and center and very important role there. And as you rightfully pointed out, right here on Long Island, we have an abundance of wind, we have an abundance of sun, we have the capacity to become leaders in alternative energy and tap into the 21st century economy there in creating jobs. As town supervisor, I led the way in making sure that we were front runners on the east end of Long Island in creating jobs and tapping into alternative energies and making sure that people got off of their dependence on LIPA and the high cost of fossil fuels, besides starting to get away from the pollutants. Unlike my opponent here, who has repeatedly voted to defund the EPA, voted against capping greenhouse causing emissions. I have worked to make sure that we are fixing the issues around nitrogen loading in our waters, created the New York Center for Water Technology at Stony Brook University, which stands to be one of the biggest job creators right here on Long Island and in Suffolk County, led the way on the Solarized Southampton program. This is the way of the future, and we need to get away from our dependence on fossil fuel and understand that there is not only the environmental impact of that, but there is the job creation and economic development.
Congressman, let me ask you this. Same question to you, but Donald Trump has publicly said that he would like to defund the Environmental Protection Agency. Do you support that? Do you support defunding the Environmental Protection Agency? And what role should that have in the federal government in energy policy?
Well, the right answer, my position, is to improve it, not to eliminate it. And we all should be entitled to clean air and clean water and lower electric bills. There's more that we could be doing for our air, for our land, for our water. Right here in the 1st Congressional District, we have this alternative energy mission at Brookhaven National Lab, at SUNY Stony Brook. ARPA-E funding is something that I have fought hard for, working with the committees of jurisdiction, with the committee chairman, because there were proposed cuts during my time in Congress, and we have fought hard to reverse that. As far as our waters, we have 2 estuaries in the 1st Congressional District. The 1st Congressional District is a great district, almost completely surrounded by water. Long Island Sound, Peconic Estuary are 2 estuaries that are part of the National Estuary Program, $26.5 million that we secured for the National Estuary Program. I secured the passage in the House unanimously of 2 proposals to save Plum Island. We have saved the Land and Water Conservation Fund, which the prior Congress allowed to lapse. I introduced the Long Island Sound Restoration and Stewardship Act with Congressman Steve Israel in order to improve water quality in the Long Island Sound. We also permanently extend the conservation easement tax credit for those in the agriculture industry out east to be able to put an easement on their property. There's a tax benefit for it, and it makes it easier to pass from one generation to the next. We have so much more that we can do to improve energy policy and improve our land, water, and air.
Okay. Congressman,
May I rebut, please?
Oh, go ahead.
I think the facts need to speak for themselves here. Congressman Zeldin has repeatedly voted to defund the EPA. He has also supported a proposition that would make it so that the EPA would have to bring before Congress every one of its projects for approval. That is a level of approval and scrutiny that no other agency of its kind is subject to today, and is one that the environmental community is unanimously against. Congressman Zeldin has given away the store on the dredging project currently to be undertaken by the Army Corps that would dredge toxic spoils on the Connecticut side of the Sound and dump them here on the Long Island side. Rather than stopping it, which he is the conduit to, he has allowed that to move forward. Okay.
And Congressman, let me give you a chance to respond to that. Do you believe, what do you believe the Congress's role in oversight of the EPA is?
There are 2 things I'd like to respond to. First off, Article 1 of our Constitution, which outlines the powers of Congress, is really long. When we are appropriating funds, taxpayer dollars, when we're supposed to be stewards of tax dollars as we see deficits and debts in the way that it is, the debt increasing the way it is, there should be accountability and transparency to the American public and to Congress. And as far as the other component of my opponent's attack, she's always attacking. But as far as what's really important with the Long Island Sound is actually we've been successful at getting the eastern dump sites eliminated. It's scheduled to be eliminated by December. Now, Long Islanders don't have an issue with Connecticut being able to do their Army Corps dredge projects. We would just like to see that the dredge spoils be used. It could be recycled. It could be capped for doing replenishment projects. Now, as far as the western dump sites, which is currently under a 30-year phase-out, I have been advocating for them to reduce that. But the eastern dump sites are getting eliminated in December.
So let me just be clear. Do you support or oppose defunding the Environmental Protection Agency?
I support funding it where the EPA is working better. It's working better for the American people. They aren't legislating through just signing a rule or a really long regulation that has all sorts of collateral damage, not looking at the impacts on businesses. When the EPA creates a clean power rule that is estimated to increase our electric bills, doubling them, yeah, I have an issue with that, and I believe that when you are enacting good policy, it shouldn't result in doubling our electric bills. Actually, good policy would be reducing our electric bills.
And if you have a quick response?
I do, because that is simply skating around the real answer here, which is that he has voted repeatedly and wants to see the EPA defunded. He would like to put a process in place that would make it so that the EPA would have to go before the Congress and get a vote on every single one of their projects. The environmental community has been unanimous in opposing this, and again, no other agency is going through that level of scrutiny. I led the way in cutting wasteful spending. 6 years as town supervisor, 2 years as councilwoman, pay the lowest property taxes in the town of Southampton and any town on Long Island today. And those are the kinds of efficiencies that we can create in the federal government without cutting services and making sure we protect our environment.
And we could talk about this for a long time, but I get a lot of topics to move to. So let's move to another topic that I know is contentious between the 2 campaigns. I'll start with you, Congressman Zeldin. Your opponent has accused you of being against background checks for gun purchases, of being opposed to to people who are on the terrorist watch list, the no-fly list, from being banned from purchasing guns. What is your position as in regards to people getting background checks for gun purchases and people on the no-fly list?
Oh, a couple things. First off, on the background check piece, there was a Department of Justice stat where 80,000 attempted illegal gun purchases in 1 year resulted in 44 prosecutions by the Department of Justice. We have laws on the books which ensure, we need to make sure that anyone who is mentally ill, who is a terrorist, who is a criminal, is not able to get their hands on any firearm. But when you have 80,000 attempted illegal purchases of firearms in 1 year and only 44 prosecutions by the Department of Justice, we obviously have an issue already. And I've actually been part of meetings with the FBI director where he's been asked, is it because you don't have enough funding? And he said, no, we're not requesting additional funding. Now, I don't know a single member of Congress in favor of terrorists being able to purchase firearms. But my opponent likes to say over and over and over again a repeated lie to try to tell you that any member of Congress to suggest that I am in favor. It's ridiculous. I actually introduced legislation that would prevent terrorists from being able to purchase firearms or explosives while protecting the due process rights of law-abiding Americans. If you can both prevent terrorists from being able to purchase firearms and protect the due process rights of Americans, that's what I'm going to be for. Now, additionally, when you look at these lists, 97% of these people are foreigners, so we're talking about the other 3%. Some of that 3%, many of that 3% can't purchase firearms already because of other laws that are currently on the books, and then there are other people who are on the list who shouldn't be. But the fact is, my opponent has repeatedly lied about my record on this. It's greatly unfortunate.
I don't mean to cut you off at this time. Response?
Absolutely. The record is very clear here that who is actually lying is Mr. Zeldin. The congressional record is very clear. 28 times the vote has come before the full congressional body on voting to bring forward Peter King's bill, H.R. 1076, the no-fly, no-buy, that would prevent people on the terrorist watch list who today are not able to fly commercially from buying guns. 28 times Mr. Zeldin has voted against it. The congressional record is very clear on that. This is not about my word or his. The congressional record is clear. So this is an instance where he is counting on that the American people do not know that there is such a thing as a procedural vote that is par for the course in the Congress, and again, 28 times. This is common sense gun safety law that 80 to 90% of Americans are asking for today. And where I think someone should buck their party and do what's right for the people, which is not what Mr. Zeldin has done. Instead, he has put forward a bill that law enforcement is across the board against, that do not believe will do the job in keeping guns out of the hands of terrorists, out of the hands of criminals, out of the hands of domestic abusers, out of the hands of the mentally ill. That is the kind of work that needs to be done, and where a representative who is there to actually represent his constituents rather than toe a party line is what we need in Congress today.
Okay, and real quickly, if you can limit it to 30 seconds.
Well, listen, I would encourage anyone at home to go look at my opponent's website. She lists bill numbers on that website. And I'm asking you not to take my word for it or to visit my website. I'm asking you to look at my opponent's commercials with the 25 bills that are listed and to look at any website. My opponent claims that those bills are bills to allow Peter King's bill. But you'll notice that none of those bills have anything to do with guns. And P. King voted the same exact way that I did on all of those bills. So my opponent is lying, but I'm asking you to look at her ads yourself and check them out on the internet. It's too easy, nothing to do with guns.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me move real quickly.
I need to rebut that.
Okay, real quickly.
Because I've been called a liar twice now.
Real quick.
And the fact of the matter is that the congressional record, and if you ask him straight up, have you or have you not voted 28 times to bring forward or not H.R. 1076, the no-fly, no-buy gun legislation? The congressional record is very clear. 28 times he has voted against it. He is the one who is not telling the truth.
Okay, I'm going to give you 10 seconds and we have to move on to another topic.
Yeah, I would just ask all of you to look up my opponent's ad yourself.
It's a yes or no question.
No, I have not voted. My opponent likes to also be the moderator and ask the questions. But no, I have not voted, as she suggested, 24, 25, 27, 28. The number keeps moving around, even though we haven't been in session since the end of September. I ask you to be your own referee. Go onto your own internet, type all of those bill numbers in, and you'll find for yourself that none of them have absolutely anything to do with guns. Issues like combating the heroin and opioid abuse epidemic, yes, I did vote for that.
Okay, we're going to have to leave it there. I appreciate both of you are not going to agree on this topic, but let me move real quickly to the Affordable Care Act. Congressman Zeldin, you have voted to repeal the act before. You are against it. If you are elected, will you vote to repeal the Affordable Care Act? And then what is your option for replacement?
Yeah, this past January, Congress passed House and Senate President vetoed legislation to repeal and replace Obamacare. Whether you are Obamacare's strongest supporter or you are its staunchest opponent, Obamacare is going to collapse on its own in 2017. There is an important need where there is bipartisan compromise right now, like continuing to cover people with pre-existing conditions, or to allow children to be able to stay on their parents' policy as currently exists under current law. But there needs to be more choice. They created one co-op in the New York State Healthcare Exchange. They got the freelancers union to do it. They had no idea how to create their own healthcare plan, so they rented one. They had no idea how to sell it, so they marked it down. And when they realized that they were going to go under, they went to New York State to try to get their policy fixed. And New York State said, no, make it work. We need to have more choices. That includes being able to purchase policies from over state lines and to get our local providers to cover those policies. It includes for our small and medium-sized businesses having the ability to pool their policies, because right now they're offering less of a policy for more of a cost. But if they can pool their policies, now they can offer more for less. Additionally, we need to utilize our tax code for pre-tax incentives for people to be able to put away their money pre-tax towards their own health. All of these are important. They should all be part of the replacement proposal. Whether you fix it, improve it, replace it, whatever we do, it's just not working. It is a disaster.
Okay, let me just ask you a yes or no question. Are you for the insurance mandate?
I haven't been for an individual mandate. I haven't been for an employer mandate as far as the right policy.
Okay, we're running out of time, but let me give you a chance to respond to that.
The Affordable Care Act is not a bill the way I would have written it. That said, it had two very important goals. One was to make sure that every American was insured and to make sure that every American had access to affordable, quality health care, and to bring down the cost of medical provision in the United States of America.
Okay.
More than 20 million Americans are now insured that were not insured prior to the Affordable Care Act. We are at the lowest uninsured rate in the history of the United States of America. That said, it has several issues that have to be dealt with, and it is now, I think, a poster child for the political dysfunction and bipartisan lack of work together in Congress today. We need to fix some simple things like allowing Medicare and Medicaid to negotiate the cost of pharmaceuticals. We need to abolish the Cadillac tax. We must make it so that it falls in an income bracket where people who are making middle-class incomes qualify for the tax credits that actually make it affordable for them. Okay. We have to bring people together to work on this. And the talk about repealing and replacing, when no replacement plan has been put forward in all of the years of talking about repeal and replacement, so that the Congressional Budget Office has never been able to take a stand on what is a better way to fund this, because they've never put it forward. So we need to bring together all parties to fix it once and for all and make it so that it works for small business and middle-class income earners.
I'm going to have to leave it there. We're running out of time real quickly, so we're going to have to move now to closing statements. Real quickly, if you can give me a yes or no answer. Donald Trump has proposed term limits for members of Congress. Are you in favor of that?
Yes, I have co-sponsored bills for 8, 10, 12 years.
Okay.
I support term limits.
And how about you? Are you
I'm in favor of term limits for every elected office.
Okay. Let's move on to closing statements. I believe that Congressman Zeldin, you have the first opportunity.
It has been an honor and privilege to represent you in Congress. Whether serving in the Army, State Senate, or Congress, I've always fought to better our community, state, and nation. 2 years ago, I stood before you promising to do everything in my power to pursue victories wherever possible. My focus has been on my new era of American strength agenda, to protect America's security at home and abroad, to help grow our economy and create more good-paying private sector jobs, to fight for our veterans and our first responders, improve the quality of education, to repair our nation's infrastructure and improve health care in America, and safeguard our environment. Since day one, my opponent has been running a completely dishonest campaign in a desperate effort to try to get herself elected to Congress. I'm asking for your support. I have found it such a privilege to be able to be your voice these last 21 months, and I look forward to pursuing more victories together for you and this great congressional district. I ask for your support on Tuesday, November 8th.
All right. Thank you, Congressman. Anna Throne-Holst, closing statement.
I have spent the last 8 years in local government. I've been elected 4 times by vast majorities because I got the job done, because of my integrity, because I told the truth, and because I brought people together across party lines. I didn't just talk about it, I actually got it done. I presided over budgets. We have the lowest property tax rate on Long Island today, and I will bring that experience and that know-how and that commitment to Congress. And I will fight for middle-class families and get the job done that the current Congress is not getting done. I will make sure that we rework the tax code and shift the burden away from middle-class families and onto the top % of earners and big businesses. I will make sure that we put common-sense gun safety laws in place. I will make sure that we protect the promise and the solvency of Medicare and Social Security, and not on the back of middle-class taxpayers, but again, shift the burden to the top % of earners and big corporations. I will make sure that we protect our environment, not just talk about it, and tap into the 21st century, and make sure that college is affordable and that every child in the United States of America has access to early childhood education, pre-K. I will make sure that we protect our borders, that we bring national security to the forefront in a way that brings us all together, and take the guns out of the hands of terrorists and the mentally ill and criminals. And thank you for having us here today.
Thank you so much for both of you to discuss the issues that affect Long Islanders and the nation. Thank you very much. And our time is up. Thanks for joining us as well. Just a reminder, Election Day is Tuesday, November 8th. Make sure to get out there and vote. This debate is available to view in its entirety online. Just go to our homepage, should be yours as well, news12.com, and click on the Island Vote Vote. Plus, you can watch the complete debate on IO Channel 612. I'm Stone Grissom. Thanks for watching this election special on News 12 Long Island, as local news gets.